Hi, I'm Dr. Elliot Adam from ElliotOracle.com, and welcome to my tarot channel. If you're new here, you're very welcome. This month, for my monthly Mystics tarot theme, I want to do something a little bit different. I've been getting a lot of questions in the comments asking if I'm teaching a tarot class. And a lot of questions people have, especially, are about struggles they have with understanding how to put a tarot spread together. So today we're going to tackle a very famous tarot spread. The tarot spread's called the Celtic Cross, and it was made popular over 100 years ago by Arthur Edward Waite. And he is one of the creators of the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. And why I love this spread so much is because I use it so much in my own business. It's a workhorse spread for clients, and it really gives you great insight into the present workings in a person's life, what they're letting go of, what their challenges are, and also where life looks like it's heading for them in the future. So today I'm going to give you my take on the Celtic Cross Spread. I wrote about it a little bit in my book, Fearless Tarot, and you can see the diagram here with the spread, but I'm going to go through a video where I do a bit of a mock reading, and I show you how to navigate through a Celtic Cross spread, even when you don't understand what question the person might have, even if you're walking into the reading blind, or especially if you're just trying to give a reading to yourself and understand it more clearly. So without further ado, let's explore the Celtic Cross spread. The first thing we need to do before we start our Celtic Cross tarot spread is to choose a significator card. And a significator card is one card that's chosen intentionally out of the deck to represent the person that's getting the reading. So for example, if you're getting the reading, you would go through the deck and pick out a card that would represent you. And there really are no rules to picking a significator card. You really want to pick a card that resonates with you. But when I'm reading for somebody that I don't know, I choose a significator card based on their astrological sun sign. So, for example, if the person's an air sign, I choose a significator from the suit of swords. If the person's a water sign, I choose from the suit of cups. If they're an earth sign, I choose from the suit of pentacles. And if they are a fire sign, I choose a card from the suit of wands. And from each suit, there's 4 court cards in each suit: a page, a knight, a queen, and a king, which can represent the different sorts of personalities that you might have to read for. For people who identify as an older man or somebody who's got masculine features or is really identifying with that gender identity, I would use a king. And for someone who identifies as female, I would use a queen. So let's say, for example, I'm reading a Libra, that's an air sign, and let's say I'm reading a woman who identifies as a woman. Well, then I would pick the Queen of Swords to be her. Knights in the tarot can represent young men or young women who are adventurous in spirit or who are still in a maturing process. And pages in the tarot, pages can represent children, younger people, girls, or even people that are gender neutral. They don't have a binary gender identity. So pages can kind of encompass everything else. And so what I do is I just choose a card based on the astrological sign. If I was reading a Leo male who is older or more mature, I'd probably pick the King of Wands. If I was picking a significator card for a young man who is a Sagittarius and identifies as male, I would use the Knight of Wands, and so forth. So what I want you to do is go through your tarot deck and pick the astrological sign or a significator that would most describe your sun sign. Once you've chosen your significator card, just set it out on the table in front of you. That's going to be the focal point for the reading. I love also choosing a significator card because there's 78 cards in the tarot. And when we take one card away and set it on the table as a significator, we're left to shuffle and work with 77 other cards. And I think that numbers that are similar like this, like 11, 22, 33, 77, these are what you would call power numbers. And it just feels good in my brain. So again, you don't have to use a significator card if you don't want to, but this has just always been my method and it works well for me and my clients. If you're not sure what element your astrological sign is, I'll just talk you through it quickly. For the wand suit, the suit of fire in the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, this would govern Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. For the earth suit, the suit that has to do with the element of earth and the signs that have to go with that, I would choose Pentacles, and the signs for that are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. For the element of water, for the water signs are Cancer, Pisces, and also Scorpio. And then for the air signs, that is the suit of swords in the tarot. And those are the signs of Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. For this next part of the video, I'm just going to have you over my shoulder as I walk you through a Celtic Cross spread. So let's just pretend we're reading for a Leo woman, someone who identifies as a woman. She's a fire sign, she's a Leo. So I'm going to go through my deck and go through all the cards, and I'm going to look for the Queen of Wands card, and I'm going to take that out. There she is. So I take that out. That's the Significator card. I'm just going to leave that in the center of the table, and that gives me 77 other cards here to work with and to shuffle. What I usually have the person do then, because I do this on the phone a lot, is I'm going to be just shuffling my cards. And I'll ask the person that I'm reading, or if I'm even reading myself, to get centered, maybe to take a deep breath, let go of all the stress of the day while I'm shuffling. I also ask the client to tune inward and get in touch with their own inner wisdom and ask their higher self, what does this reading really need to reveal to them? And so for the Celtic Cross Spread, I'll just shuffle the cards and I'll ask the client to tell me when they feel instinctively like I should stop shuffling, in which they'll tell me to stop. So I'll be shuffling and they'll tell me when to stop. So they'll say stop, I'll stop there. Then I'll ask if they want me to cut the deck or not. Again, it's not mandatory. There's no rules here. Don't believe anybody who's like, you must cut it in 3 piles and then put this pile in this order. That's all, a matter of personal preference. So if they say cut it, I say, okay, great. I'll just cut it in half. There we go. So here is the set of cards that we're going to work with. Then we draw the cards from the top of the deck. So the cards come out in this order, and watch me here. And there's 10 cards here. So card number 1, card number 2, card number 3 goes up here, card number 4 goes down here, card number 5 goes over here, card number 6 right there, card number 7 here, card number 8, card number 9, and card number 10. So that is a Celtic Cross layout spread. You'll see that there's this actual cross card going on over the Significator card here, and then there's just 4 cards in a row here. And so what I'm going to do now is talk you through how to approach this. How would you interpret a Celtic Cross spread that appears like this? And what are the different sections? What do they all mean? So now that we have our tarot spread laid out on the table, what do we do with it? Let's just say you're trying to read for yourself or a client, and now you have all these symbols and you don't know what to do with all of them. Well, each tarot spread position has a different way to interpret the card, has a different meaning. And if the tarot and its images are the soul of a reading that really activate or speak to our unconscious, our inner self, our higher self, well, then the tarot spread is the way that we give the information that we're receiving structure. It's like the skeletal system of the information. It really helps us interpret each card in a very specific way. So I'm going to talk through each card. I'm also going to just demonstrate my process. Let's just say I'm reading for this Leo lady and I don't know her. Maybe I asked if she has a specific question or wants to look at something in particular with her life. And she's like, no, I'm just curious about whatever comes up. Well, then we're kind of going into the reading blind, but that's still okay. I'm going to just talk through how we'd interpret each card. So let's start with card number 1. Card number 1 is Judgment. And the first card in the Celtic Cross spread represents the present moment. What's going on with the person you're reading right now? What's the current energy that they're dealing with? And here, I wouldn't even look at the rest of the cards after I've laid them all out. I might, glance at things and get some different impressions of a theme that's going on here. But a lot of times I'm going in blind with a reading, so I just start from the beginning. And it's very important that you're not kind of skipping ahead and getting really nervous about something you're seeing over here. Oh my God, there's an Eight of Swords. What does that mean? Stay one at a time. Some people even lay out their Celtic Cross Spread with the cards face down. And as they go through each card, they flip them over to make it a little bit more organized in their thinking so they're not as scattered. But let's just start from the beginning. So the first card represents the present moment, the present energy that's going on around this person. And the card here is Judgment, which for me is a card of rebirth, renewal. It's a card of reawakening. And if I don't even know the person I'm reading, I don't despair. I found that it's so important that you're not worried about trying to be right with the person that you're reading, but instead that you're just speaking through the symbolism. You may not know what the symbolism means for the person you're reading, but they will. And as you talk through the symbolism, their inner self will do all the work. It will make its connections. It will understand what the Judgment card means for them. So for this first card of Judgment, it's a card of rebirth and renewal. And the way I would start the reading is just to say that in the present moment, this person is going through a reawakening or a rebirth. I'll even describe the card to the individual that's getting the reading. So I'll say the angel of judgment blows the trumpet and all the dead rise out of the grave again. And what this is a symbol for is that your higher self is waking up the dead parts of you. Old dreams that were lost or forsaken, things that you forgot about, things that might have felt like they were lost to you, are stirring back to life again. The Judgment card reminds me of the legendary phoenix, the bird that rises out of the ashes. And so this Leo lady that I'm reading, hypothetically, would be going through a rebirth, a renewal, a time of reawakening in her life, a time where the dead parts of herself are stirring back to life. The second card in the Celtic Cross is laid right across the first and the Significator card. And the crossing card has to do with what's helping or hindering the person right now. The crossing card, in the case of a challenging card, can show what's hindering the person. What's their hang up? What's the obstacle? What's the thing that's getting in their way? In the case of an empowering or positive card, like the World, it can indicate what's helping them. So with the World card, this is a card of completion, mastery, graduation, completing a cycle. These two cards work in tandem with each other. A lot of us have more than one thing going on in our heads at any given moment. And so these first two cards will show where someone's at and also what's helping or hindering them in the present moment as well. In the case of the World card, it's very interesting here too. We got this little symbolism going on where in the major arcana we have card number 20 followed by card 21. And so there's a pattern there. There's a sequence. It's like, okay, this person is elevating from one step to the next step. There's a natural order to things here. In the case of the World card, this is a helper card. So I'd say not only are you the phoenix rising out of the ashes right now, not only is there this reawakening that's happening in your life, but you're completing a cycle. And the thing that's helping you right now is that you're bringing closure to the past. Those are all words that are associated with the World card. And if you're confused about any card meanings, I have a ton of free content online on my tarot website, elliotoracle.com. You can just type into Google Elliot, the world, and you'll get this whole description of what the card can mean and a little 1-minute video clip. So don't get hung up too much on the card meanings, but really what we're really focusing on is the positions of the spread, how to work through a Celtic Cross Spread. So that crossing card is what's helping them, and the World card is just signifying that this is a time of completion, mastery, them finishing an important cycle in their life right now, and that it's time for them to graduate to that next level, to go to that next step. The next card in the spread is the card that appears above them in the spread. And this is the card that is, for me, what's representing what's on this person's mind. What's their mind, their state of mind, what they're thinking about, what they're focusing on. In the case of the Sun is the best card in the deck for a lot of readers. It represents optimism. There's also this little theme, this little pattern going on because the sun represents a new day is dawning, a fresh start, a new beginning, something to feel joyous and optimistic about. The sun on the mind of the client, it would just indicate that this individual's focusing on the positive right now. There's something to feel excited about. Their mindset is probably illuminated right now. And judging from these first two cards, because as we're reading through each card, we're kind of building a narrative, building more of a story about this person. We're kind of like an artist sketching out the rough lines of the person and filling in the details as we go along. Well, this is giving us a little bit more insight into what that person is thinking about, what their values are. Also, you can just, if you're lost, you don't know what the sun means, you can just start with the details on the card, the sunflowers. And you can just say, they're sunflowers and they always turn their face toward the light. So what does that symbolize? Well, that symbolizes you turning your face toward the light, you looking at the optimistic thing. But this is just showing a pretty healthy state of mind for this individual right now. The next card that comes up in the spread is the card that appears below the person, below the significator card. And this is the foundation card. This card shows how stable or unstable the person's foundation of their life is right now. How solid do they feel? And also, this card can represent the major themes that are going on in the person's life in the real world right now. In the case of the Six of Cups, this card is long associated in the tarot with the past. And so if the past card comes up on the foundation, it can really indicate that so much of what this person is experiencing right now has its foundations in the past. In the case of the Six of Cups upright, this is kind of a positive card. So it could indicate that there's been some positive changes that this person has been implementing in the past. They've come full circle, and it's benefiting them right now. The Six of Cups could also indicate that right now is a time for this person to bring closure to the past. Again, we're kind of tying it back to some of the themes of the reading that we already have established, like the World card, the card of completion, the cards of new beginnings here. This could really show an important threshold. Now, all of these cards in this line, they represent the present of the person's current situation, the present line. And so that, in turn, with this next card, would show the person's past. So this is the fifth card in the spread, and this card just shows what's past or what is now passing from the person's life. This will indicate the major themes that have been worked on, what they've been focusing on up until this point in the reading, up until this point in their life, I should say, and lessons that they've learned. And here's another theme now that we're kind of fleshing this person out a little bit more. Look at how many major arcana cards they're getting. 4 major arcana cards. When we get a lot of major arcana cards clustered together, this indicates that this person's going through a major shift, a major focus in their life. The major arcana has to do with one's inner self, their inner life, their deeper nature. Whereas the minor arcana cards, they sometimes have to do with the external world, other people, or passing situations. So with the Wheel of Fortune in the past, Wheel of Fortune can represent unpredictability, sudden changes. You can see these different figures on the Wheel of Fortune. Some are rising, some are falling, and they're attached to that rim of the wheel. And for me, the rim of the wheel is a symbol for the external world, the things that are outside of that person's, mind, outside of their experience. And what this represents is that this individual has had to learn to get off of the rim of the wheel, to stop rising and falling with each changing circumstance, but to find their way to the hub of the wheel, the center of the wheel, to get into the, touch with their center. This card can also just represent that there's a lot of sporadic, crazy, almost chaotic, chancy sort of energy that's now leaving this individual. And so, judging by how the present line cards look compared to the past, there is this sense of a little bit more stability and even closure. Cycles are being completed here. The next card in the spread, the sixth card, has to do, 6, 7, 8, 9, sixth card has to do with the near future. And the near future card just represents where the energy of the person's life, as it's going now, is seeming to head. What are the challenges that might be up ahead for them in the next coming weeks? And by near future, I usually put a time frame on this of about the next 2 to 4 weeks or so. Well, their near future card is a King of Swords. And lots of people have trouble with court cards. They say, oh no, does the court card represent a person or is it a situation? And so if you don't know what this is talking about, why not cover both of your bases? I like to let the person to decide what this card represents. First, I'll describe if the King of Swords represents a person in their life. And next, I'll just describe if the King of Swords would represent a situation that they might be confronting or going through in the near future. So in the case of the King of Swords, if this is a person, I'll say, if this is a person, the King of Swords is going to be someone who's rather rigid. He's fixed. He's rather set in his ways. The King of Swords is seated on a throne, and it's decorated with butterflies, which normally represent change and transformation, but they're frozen in stone. So the King of Swords often doesn't like to change. And also there's two birds flying in the sky behind the King of Swords. And one bird is flying markedly on top of the other. This symbolizes the King of Swords' desire to dominate or to be the boss, to be the one in charge. So then I'll say, if everything I'm saying makes no sense and you don't know anybody like that you're dealing with, well, then the King of Swords would represent a situation. And in that case, it's very similar. The King of Swords would represent a situation where there isn't a lot of wiggle room, where there might even be some resistance to change. And then we tie it into the cards we've already been reading. We could see that there's this beautiful new beginning, closure, optimism about the future. But then as you're going through the next several weeks or so, there's a resistance to that change. There is maybe some fear around changing. There could be some rigidity. You might also be having an internal power struggle between the part of you that wants to move forward and to make things right, and the part of you that wants to stay safe and really uphold the status quo. And that's kind of what the King of Swords' energy represents. Another thing I'll say is every card we're talking about from here on out has to do with the future. And, a lot of people are very mistaken about the future in a tarot reading. The future is not something that's written in a book in heaven that only a chosen few people have insight into. And if you consult them with their special powers, they'll have this magical insight into what's going on in your life. The future is unmade. The future is being decided right now in the present moment based on the decisions we make. And the beautiful thing about a tarot reading is if you see cards ahead that you don't like, or that make you uncomfortable, you don't have to just accept that that's what you're doomed to experience. You can change it. And that's the whole reason we get a reading. It kind of gives us insight into our blind spots. And so in the near future, if we don't like that King of Swords energy, if we really do want to change, if we do want to be flexible or adaptable, we can make a conscious choice in the coming weeks to make decisions that make us more flexible or adaptable. We might also handle an individual who's very fixed in a way that's a little bit more knowledgeable. We're prepared for it. We kind of know that they're trying to dominate here. We might be able to outwit them or even convince them through reasoned arguments for why they need to behave in a different way. Or we can just decide to take our own power back. But that King of Swords is just giving us a little signpost of where the energy's heading. The next card in the spread has to do with the further future, the next several months. So this is the near future card. It's the next few weeks. This is the further future card. It's the next several months. And by next several months, I usually kind of ascribe to a Celtic Cross Spread the next 3 to 6 months. What's the theme or what's the energy the person is confronting? Well, here we get a little more insight because we have another Swords card. And swords, like we sort of described earlier with the Significator cards, they have to do with the element of air. And the element of air has to do with our thoughts, our thinking, our mindset. And what I'm seeing is that there's going to be some challenges with this individual in the near future and in the next few months based on their mindset, how they're thinking about things. The Eight of Swords for me is a card of toxic passivity. It represents a helplessness. Here we see the damsel in distress, and she's feeling abandoned and lost. She's waiting for the hero, the knight, to swoop in and rescue her, but nobody's coming. And this is because she needs to rescue herself. And so how I would interpret that is in the next several months, your biggest battle is going to be playing out in your head. It's going to have to do with your own beliefs of how limited you are, maybe how trapped you are, how stuck you are, symbolized by the ropes that are tying the individual up. For me, the Eight of Swords can also be a card of fearful thoughts, things that can paralyze the person. And yet, even though this woman's tied up with ropes, she could be free so easily. All she'd have to do is cut these ropes against the swords that are right next to her. She could be free whenever she wants to. And so too with us, with our mind or our mindset. We may have thoughts that overthrow our sense of power occasionally, and yet we can make a decision to do something different, to do something better. And so this card is really one of coming back to your power by recognizing I need to wake up, I need to stop waiting for life to get better, and I need to be proactive with it. And maybe the ropes here that are tying this person up are their fears about them not completing a cycle or not being able to move forward. Even though they're starting out optimistically on their journey, they may run into some obstacles here. The gas may, run out, or they may feel challenged by some sort of oppositional energy. And yet they need to keep their mind on their own side. Thoughts are so important here with that sword suit. The next card in the Celtic Cross Spread is the eighth card. And this has to do with the relationships that are around the person. I call this the relationship section. Some readers call it the family section, the environment. This card represents either supportive individuals that are around this person or a supportive energy that's around them in the case of a positive card. And in the case of a challenging card, it can represent challenges that they might be confronting with other people that are around them as well. So the Three of Pentacles is long associated with education, learning, school, or knowledge. And what this can indicate is that this individual might be preparing to learn more, to educate themselves. And they're needing to be in an environment where that nurturing is going to happen, where they're going to really feel like their education can be facilitated. They may also need to go forward with a project or something that they're trying to get off the ground, but there's still some learning that's required. And because this is coming up in the relationship section, this card can indicate that they may need help. They may need other people to teach them. They may also need to seek out some support or to collaborate to bring that to the next level. So the Three of Pentacles can indicate learning, teaching, education. And it could just indicate that the environments that are really going to be supportive for this individual are ones where they're open to learning, ones where she feels supported by other people. Sometimes this card can also just kind of put on a light bulb as you're talking through the cards. The person might say, wow, I'm going to school. That makes total sense. I'm graduating from something here with the world. I have to go through this rigorous, situation where there's not a lot of wiggle room, maybe even a tough personality. I have to overcome my crippling fear. But yeah, people would be supportive, and that might be really great. Or they might interpret this in a different way. They might take that information and apply it to something else that they're overcoming in their life. But that's the beauty of tarot. It kind of gets the individual to examine what's happening in their life and to dialogue with something deeper within them. The next card in the spread has to do with one's hopes or fears. And for me, this is also the feeling section in the tarot, in the future. Like I said, all of these cards have to do with the future, next several months, next 3 to 6 months or so. With this section here, it's important to differentiate for the client that this card doesn't show what's happening to the person. It shows how they're feeling about what's happening. It might also show their hope or their fear. In the case of a positive card like the Fool, it's what they hope to happen. In the case of a challenging card, maybe even sometimes the Fool, it's their fear. In the case of the Fool, if the Fool is representing the person's hope, well, their hope is to begin anew. Again, we get that solar symbolism like the sun here. If the World card represents the final card of the major arcana, the Fool is numbered 0. He's the beginning. So we have this ending, and then we have this now beginning. The hope is that one gets to start over. There's a new chance at things. There's a new lease on life. The Fool has his head upturned. He's optimistic about this new journey. And so this card can indicate that the hope, the feeling the person is walking into their future with, even despite the challenges, is that they are open to learning. The Fool is the Fool because he doesn't know something yet. And again, we can couple that with that Three of Pentacles, the card of needing education, learning. So this is a card of like, yeah, if you follow your hopes of learning more, educating yourself more, you're going to find that this benefits you. So the Fool, for me, can be a very optimistic card. If he is the fear card, he could also just be you're fearing looking like a fool, you're fearing making a mistake. That's that inner saboteur kind of energy of the Eight of Swords. So there could be a hope and a fear kind of quality. And the advice I would give this person is to embrace the energy of the Fool, embrace the new beginning, embrace what they're trying to create. And that leads to the final card in the Celtic Cross Spread, the final outcome card. This card just shows in the end where things are heading. It's also a card that shows what's on the horizon. In the case of a positive card, it will show an energy that one has to look forward to, that they want to keep encouraging to facilitate the best new beginning. In the case of a challenging card, this is showing a potential pitfall they might want to avoid, or something that they want to keep in mind as they're going down this path. And here we see the Knight of Swords. Again, we got another court card. And as I was saying before, sometimes court cards have to do with other people, and sometimes they have to do with situations. And if you're picking up the airplanes that are going over my head as I'm going through this video, I apologize for that. So I would just say, in the outcome, if the Knight of Swords represents another person, I'd feel that the Knight of Swords represents an individual who's single-minded in his own goals. He might be relentless on what he's pursuing. He might not think about who he's running over or how his actions affect other people. He's just racing ahead on his horse. He's not an evil knight. He's not an evil person necessarily, but he isn't one that's really thinking about you or what's happening in your situation. And when we kind of put that in context with all these other cards that we've kind of encountered up until now, I would say that yes, there is this hope of this new beginning. There's this new step you're going into. There's this positive environment that might be nurturing. But there's also going to be people on the path that aren't going to be very thoughtful, that aren't really going to be as supportive, that are going to be thinking about themselves in the end. And you need to know that information in order to either protect yourself or to not take this too personally if you feel like this is a bit competitive. Also, this can just represent life situations, if it's not a person, that are very fast-paced. The Knight of Swords can represent that cruel taskmaster within each of our minds who yells, go, 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 go more, do more, pushes so hard. And the horse can represent your physical body. And the horse is looking up at the knight like, are you kidding me? I can't go any faster. I'm going to collapse here. So the parting advice, the outcome advice is that things are going to speed up for this individual. And it may be a struggle to keep up with it. And yet they need to be kind to themselves. They need to slow down. They need to be kind to their body. The Knight of Swords can also be represented as impulsive sometimes. This card could say it's important to be thoughtful of the steps that you're going through. It might be a time to get more information or help from other people in order to navigate this next journey in a better way. So we got the Fool card followed by the Knight of Swords. I would just interpret that to mean that, yeah, there's this new beginning, there's this fresh start, it looks really optimistic, but don't be foolish by rushing, by not paying attention to the details, or by just kind of like in the relentless pursuit of your goal, not being kind to yourself and not being centered. Overall, the reading has both encouraging messages in it and also food for thought, things that people need to be mindful of. I find that in my approach to tarot, it doesn't help people to flip over a card like the Eight of Swords and say, well, you're doomed in the next several months, and so nothing good's going to come as a result of it. And so if you struggle with some of these cards that are challenging, or you aren't satisfied with card definitions that just make people feel negative and powerless and like they might as well not even try, then I really suggest you pick up my book, Fearless Tarot, because it really tells you how to, or it'll show you how to look at each card as an opportunity to grow and to find empowerment, even in the most challenging cards as well. And that is my approach to the Celtic Cross Tarot spread. I do hope you enjoyed it. Just keep in mind that every reader, every person who interacts with the tarot brings their own experiences, brings their own wisdom into a reading and into interacting with the cards. And so it's so important that you're not walking into a reading with a very fixed mindset like the King of Swords, that this card means this all the time and only means that. Tarot is subjective. It's also more of an art than a science. And so there is room for flexibility and creative thought or thinking. So really be skeptical of anyone out there who tells you this card only means that and that card's bad or this card means this, because they really don't know what they're talking about. I hope you all have a wonderful month, and I will see you again here for the next episode of Monthly Mystics. If you want even more information about the Celtic Cross Tarot spread, do check out my book, Fearless Tarot, which is available online, and I have some signed copies available on my website, elliotoracle.com. I hope you all have a wonderful month, and I will see you again here next month, so do take care.